feeling of frustration. Anybody ever had that fight in your life? It feels like a never-ending struggle, seems like a continual battle. Because what frustration is literally an emotional response to opposition. It is my reaction or my response when opposition, whether actual, whether it is imposed, whenever I'm faced with oppositions, then automatically, at least at this stage, automatically I respond back to it because I'm frustrated. And frustration is greatly connected to anger or disappointment. The truth of the matter is most people that you find who lash out in anger or bitterness, generally the cause of that is because they're so frustrated and they have no vent system. They have no way to release it other than to release it through anger or disappointment. And it is generally associated with a feeling of dissatisfaction, not necessarily with people. The greatest frustration that you will experience in your life is when you begin to develop a dissatisfaction with yourself. My frustration, or the greatest frustration I've ever experienced, was not necessarily my being disappointed with you or dissatisfied with you. The greatest levels of frustration I've ever experienced in my life was because there was a dissatisfaction about me, particularly when I know I have more potential than seems to be a result of my current life at the moment. Have you ever been there that you're it's not people. You have to begin to focus in on who you are and understand that I am frustrated most of the time. That begins to frustrate me. One of the things are unmet needs. Have you ever, that frustration, things are not met, and I'm trying everything I know to do to get it together, to pull it together, and it seems as if my efforts are not being fruitful. Nothing I'm doing is making what's already bad any better, and it becomes frustrating. That's why when you come into the house of the Lord, no matter how frustrated you ought to always have your ears open to hear what the Spirit of the Lord is going to say at that moment, because I'm only frustrated until I am receptive to the revelation that God's getting ready to release to get me out of this moment. Let me tell you that whenever you are frustrated, God has a fresh word for you that has within it the power and the ability to bring you out of that mental rut, that emotional rut, that psychological rut, if you would have an ear to hear what the Spirit of the Lord is saying. I wonder, is there anybody in this room right now that can hear God saying, don't worry about it, it's going to be just fine. I know you're frustrated right now, but I'm getting ready. If you would hear my word is getting ready to produce supernatural fruit in your life if you would not give in to the feeling of frustration. Lift up your hand and say, I will not be frustrated. I will unmet expectation. Let's look at Proverbs 13 and 12. I want you to see this. Because I refuse to allow my feeling of frustration to make me anxious or depressed, because at the current moment my needs are unmet or my needs are unfulfilled. Look at Proverbs 13 and 12. Because when I'm frustrated, it can be traced back most of the time to unmet expectations. Not just unmet expectations of people, but again, I want you to keep your focus on you. Because you've lived too much of your life focused on other people and what they did and how they prohibit certain movements in your life and how it is that they stunted or prohibited certain growth spurts in your life. The truth of the matter is, I'm most of the time frustrated because I have some unmet expectations out of myself. And anytime you have more expectations out of people than you do yourself, you're going to live life most miserable. The Apostle Paul says that I am most miserable among all men. Unmet expectations. Look at Proverbs 13 and 12. You have it, shout amen. Look at the word says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but when the desire comes, it is a tree of life. Hope deferred or put off. Have you ever got the feeling where like life keep putting you off, and As if God keeps putting you off, and you get all built up in the spirit, and you get enough nerve to ask God to do a certain thing, and you release your faith and you believe God to do it, and it feels as if God is putting you off, or saying, well, not now, or maybe later, or maybe another time is better. And whenever your hope is deferred, it makes the heart sick. It causes the heart to turn downwardly, the Greek there. It causes it to be gut-wrenching. That I do not even want to believe again, because my expectation is that you told me that if I asked God for it, he would do it. But you cannot be so caught up in a timetable or a time frame when God makes you a promise. You got to just know that if God said it was going to happen, that it is absolutely going to happen. Somebody shout, it's going to happen. Because he says it makes the heart sick. But when the desire comes, it is a tree of life, which means that I'm frustrated temporarily. God, I feel like shouting on a noonday service. I'm only frustrated temporary, momentary. This is just a temporal moment that I'm frustrated. Do not convince yourself that you're going to be frustrated all your life. Do not convince yourself, I'm going to be frustrated. Child, this is going to be a bad week. Why? Because I didn't get this on Monday. And now you have literally given permission to Tuesday and Wednesday, Thursday and Friday to entrap you in a mindset of being frustrated. But the devil, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. It's a matter of when. I thought I had a church in here tonight today, and this is a matter of when it's going to happen. But when the desire comes, it's a tree of life. Now, if you've been paying attention, this is going to make you shout, because what God says, the moment you let go of frustration, I'm now able to let go of the fruit. Y'all miss it. Because frustration is because I don't see anything manifesting. I don't see anything happening at the moment. But God says the moment you let that go, you're going to see a tree of life. It is a perpetual state of abundance. It's a perpetual state of fruitfulness in my life. The only thing that's standing between you and your place of fruitfulness is your inability to let go of your spirit of frustration. Somebody who's ready to let it go, just lift your hand right now and say, I'm letting it go in the presence of God. I can't walk around frustrated. I'm snapping at people unnecessarily. I'm mad at you and I just saw you 10 minutes ago. But I have no other mechanism to release it. And God says, when you release your frustration, guess what? Heaven's ready to release the fruit in your life. Heaven's ready to open up the heaven. God's literally got the angels on guard and say, the moment that girl lets that go, I want y'all to spend all day releasing fruit into our life, because it's not a matter of if it's coming. It is actually a matter of when it's coming. Somebody shout, it is coming. It is coming. Now, if I'm frustrated, not only is it because of unmet expectations, but sometimes it's because of unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations. And you got to watch people now, because people will tell you that everything you're believing God for, that's unrealistic. Everything you're trying to pursue, that's unrealistic. Everything you're desiring from the Lord, child, that is absolutely unrealistic. And what it means is they're saying it is not compatible to reality. That is what people are telling you. When they say that's unrealistic, it means it's not compatible to reality, and it's unreasonably idealistic. God, deliver me from those kind of people.